I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, culture than pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Wednesday, October 13th. Matt is here with me, and we have got a fun-filled episode for you guys. We are going to recap what ended up being an amazing Monday Night Football game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Indianapolis Colts. We will give our top 12 rankings at each position. We will then preview the Thursday Night Football game, which looks to be a good one between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles. And last but not least, we will get back into Pop Culture Corner. We will talk a little bit about Marvel's What If and the last installment of Daniel Craig's James Bond in No Time to Die. Matt, how are you doing on this wonderful Wednesday?
I mean, I'm doing good, but just that description made me tired.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So we are going to dive right into it. The Monday Night Football game, I mean, holy crap. The Ravens-Colts played to a much better game than I expected them to. You know, we talked a little bit about it before we got out of here on Monday. We did not think this was going to be necessarily a good game. And every time we say that, we are usually proved wrong. But before I do that, I need to mention we are proud to be a part of the Pigskin Podcast Network, and they have a Ravens podcast that would tell you how excited they were about what Lamar Jackson was able to do. You can find them at Pigskin PodNet on Twitter, or you can search the hashtag TPPN, which we are, again, proud to be a part of. So, Lamar Jackson leads the Colts back in overtime, 31-25 win for them. The Colts, though, looked good early. It was a big day for Wentz and a big day for Jonathan Taylor. Is this offense finally getting it together?
Yeah, I'd say that that Monday podcast, there were two things we were wrong about right there at the end, that this game would be boring and that John Gruden would be okay, because Monday night, all that kind of came crashing down.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think I told you I was down 50 points in my work league and all I had was Marquise Brown. So I forgot I had Jonathan Taylor until the first play of the game when he catches a 76-yard touchdown. And my work friend, Matt, sends me a text. He's like, hey, good start for you. And I was like, oh, damn, I have Jonathan Taylor. But it was nice to see the Colts. You know, Wentz went for over 400 yards. They actually looked really good until it mattered.
Yeah, and I mean, Frank Reich, you know, I'll give him props just like I did Kevin Stefanski on Monday's episode. He kind of came out and said that it was on him. He did not necessarily call the best play calls down the stretch there in the fourth quarter, and in the overtime kind of let Baltimore get back in it and win it. And it's good in my opinion for coaches to recognize that. Now they need to change that moving forward, but it is good to recognize that. I mean, man, was it great to see Jonathan Taylor get going. I mean, I was with you. It ended up making sure I won a game because I did go against Lamar and Mark Andrews in one league, but I also had Marquise Hollywood Brown and Jonathan Taylor in only I think it was like a 20-point lead. So once Lamar started going off, but I think it was really that touchdown at the end by Hollywood Brown that secured it for me. I only won by like 10 points, so it was not a fun night for me. But wow, I mean, Lamar brought back, I'm sure, a lot of teams. He cost me a win. I was up 50-something points on Lamar, on the guy, and Lamar went off. I mean, it was a great game for him. He continues to just impress. Definitely looks like he's rebounded from last year, because that is definitely not the Lamar we were seeing a lot of times last year. And same thing with Carson Wentz. You know, we were worried about him, especially earlier in this season with the Angles. He seems to be doing better, and I'm loving Jonathan Taylor getting all the work that he got not just in the rushing game, but them actually using him in the passing game. They split him out wide early in that game as well. It was really great to see. But as I mentioned, the Ravens have the huge comeback, and it was led by Lamar, the passer. I've been talking about, I thought this is what we were going to see this year in the way that they drafted Bateman and Wallace and the way they were kind of shifting that offense. Has that kind of been cemented for you, or do you still think they're trying to build around the run game?
I mean, it certainly seems like they are really trying to commit to throwing the ball more, but also I have to be honest, if those were my set of running backs, I might be looking to throw the ball more too. They have, they have a really good group that they're developing in the passing game. They've developed chemistry with Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews. I think you and I are both excited about Rashad Bateman coming back. I don't know if that would be their top option, but it's got to be comforting to Ravens fans, maybe not to you as a Browns fan, but to Ravens fans to see that if Lamar needs to go out there and just be a passer, he can really do it, because he did it all basically on his arm.
Yeah, well, I will say I did still pick them to win the division, so I did think the Ravens were still going to be good this year. I thought they were going to be better than the Browns. I think I had the Browns with 5 losses, and fuck, they're almost, well, I didn't mean to cuss right there, but they're already almost there. I think I may have had them with 6. I don't remember, but I didn't have them running away with the AFC North. As I've said in the past, even though I was down on Lamar last year, it's not that I don't like him as a player. I wanted to see more out of him, and we are definitely seeing that this year. And I said at the beginning of the year I was back in on Lamar. I think he's in for a really good season, and he is the king of the North. They've won the North the past couple of years. They've been the best team. You're going to have to dethrone them. I'm very curious to see what happens with Bateman coming back, because I saw a lot of people talking about this might be bad for Hollywood Brown. I've been on the opposite the whole time. I thought this would be great for Hollywood Brown, because Bateman just gives that defense another area in this short game to have to cover besides Mark Andrews, which could open up things deep for Hollywood. So, and he's having a much better year as well, making my call of him being the fantasy MVP looking really good right now, because he has been amazing.
Well, and we talked about earlier that, we've seen the elite tight ends kind of even be up and down. But Andrews has been pretty rock solid, and the more that they're going to consistently pass, the better he looks. It was interesting to me to even see Josh Oliver out there getting involved, a guy who had been kind of a sleeper with Jacksonville and moved to Baltimore in the offseason. It's like, oh, that's a bummer, but it's nice to see him out there getting involved.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So the John Gruden news, we talked a little bit about this on Monday. We obviously haven't been back since what happened. I, at the time, had not really paid much attention to what it all had gone on. It was a very busy weekend for me last weekend, so I missed whatever the emails were and everything. Then as we were getting ready to sit down and talk about or watch the Monday Night Football game, you posted a link with more stuff that came out. Obviously, I really don't know what there is to say. I mean, I'm not here for the cancel culture stuff. I think he got the consequences of his actions. I think what happened was right. I honestly don't think he should have been given the option to resign. I think he should have been fired. I get why he was given the option to resign.
Did you see comments from Mark Davis today?
I did not. I've not seen anything. I literally just pulled up Twitter for the first time in like the past 8-10 hours.
Curious to see. I feel like more's going to come out here, because he got asked about that situation and he said, go to the NFL. They have all your answers, as if they've, because this wasn't specifically an investigation of Gruden. His emails when he was not working for the NFL off of what appeared to be a private account were lodged squarely in the account of the GM for Washington. So he got caught up in that Washington thing. You have to figure there's more coming out there, but I'm with you. This was, once the full breadth of that report came out in the New York Times, the second report, there was no conceivable way he's staying.
Yeah, and I will say, and I will give Ray Garvin a shout out about this. You can follow him at RayGQ on Twitter. He does a morning show every day called Wake Up with Jordan Richards at JRich. I would definitely look at it. I tweeted it out the other day. Look up the podcast and see. He did like a 4-minute discussion. Not really discussion. He just he went on a little talk about it for 4 minutes. It was very eloquently done. And as someone I respect. It was very, I think, important to hear. I mean, I'll just be honest. He is an African American male. I am a white male. And a lot of that stuff that's been said, we know has been a big deal throughout the past year. It's been a big deal for a lot longer, but it's kind of really been heightened in the past year. A lot more people seem to be allies compared to enemies, if I can say that. And so I really appreciate what he had to say. I do think if anybody has time, you should definitely listen to it. It's like 3 to 4 or 5 minutes, and it's really worth your time. I promise you on that. Outside of that being said, though, I mean, I think we can all agree that Gruden, the consequences of his actions were, he also got removed from the Ring of Honor from Tampa Bay. He deserved to be let go of his job. And what I was going to say about Twitter, as you brought that up, I've seen a lot of people now talking about there's, I guess, a lot more that's about to go down with whatever these emails are that are about to be released. So I guess we'll just get prepared for that. I mean, I will say it is something that I hate to see, not in the people getting held accountable, but that this is actually going on in a sport that we all love, because I'd rather just be talking about football right now. I do not want to be talking about this because it's just not fun for anybody, but it does need to get brought to light. We do need to find out who really are the issues here and get them removed from the game. I saw people talking about we may see a lot more head coaches in trouble. Well, if they were saying racist, bigoted, sexist, homophobic things, then they need to get fired too, or I guess allowed to resign is what, Gruden was allowed. So
they just need to be gone.
Yes, we need to get them out of the game and move forward.
Especially, I thought it was a particularly striking look considering that the Raiders were the team this offseason that has the first kind of openly gay player. And to read some of those comments he made in denigrating others, but also in talking about the Michael Sam pick, had to have, I mean, you've got to feel for the Raiders, who started 3-0 and looked really good and have struggled the past 2 weeks and now have to put this season back together. Yeah. How do some of those players feel? Derek Carr, whether you like him or not, is a man of convictions and faith. I wonder how he felt seeing that had such a tight relationship with the coach, and then where they go from here. Dennis had posted in our chat all the assistant coaches, and you see a lot of guys who have had some experience, but no like strong personalities, which would sort of make sense. I think, unfortunately, for Raiders fans who might have been optimistic, I thought they could be, above 500 in the playoff mix. You guys thought they'd end up a little bit lower. I think with all this that's going on, it's hard to see them being much more than a 6-7 win team right now, despite starting 3-0.
Yeah, I will say that's who I feel the worst for. I mean, outside of obviously the people that he disparaged, but the Raiders team, because they have to now deal with this all season long, more than likely. And I mean, you not just talked about the the relationship that we have perceived Derek Carr to have with John Gruden, but Carr has recently, the past couple of years, become like a Gruden guy. So what does this even mean for his future? Does he even have a future with the Raiders now that Gruden's gone? Like, there's a lot up in the air. So I do feel for the Raiders players, because now they're going to get, especially this week, probably hundreds, if not thousands of questions about this. And all they want to do is focus on a game, because they've lost the past 2 weeks. They're trying to get back into the win column and get going toward the playoffs. And it's just another, just kind of kicking the nuts for them. So I do feel for them. Carl Nassib, I'm sure, is going to get asked a million questions, because, as you mentioned, he is the first, or he's not the first. Michael Sam was the first openly, gay player, but he's in the NFL now and play, and he is starting for the Oakland Raiders, or I keep saying Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders. And then after seeing all that stuff come out, he's going to get asked. So it's going to be, it's probably going to be hell for them if we're being honest. So that does suck for the Raiders players, and then I do feel for them having to go through all of this.
Tougher press conference week were they to have it? The Raiders or Spencer Rattler?
Oh, the Raiders, no doubt about it. Spencer Rattler's had all his stuff canceled anyway, so he's kind of.
That's what I said. Were they? I'm sure they canceled them.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I think Lincoln Riley came out today and did so. Canceled all the media availability. Yeah. So there's no real easy transition into what we want to talk about next. But if you do want to get help from a Hall of Famer, Matt, where is somewhere that our listeners can go?
Yeah, we're about to look at our rankings, but if you want the tools that help Bob Harris reach the Fantasy Football Hall of Fame, head to footballdiehards.com and get the Flash Update Pro. It's a full suite of tools to make you a better manager with rankings, configurable cheat sheets, mock draft, consistency tools, target distribution, snap counts, and more. Use code Roundtable for an additional 15% off the already low price of $24.
All right, so let's jump into our rankings. And as I mentioned at the top, because we have a lot going on in this episode, we're just going to give you our top 12 players at each position. We're not going to go too deep into the analysis. So, Matt, I'm going to let you take it first. QBs, just give us your top 12.
Yeah, so QB, I'm starting it off with Captain Kirk Cousins, the Captain Kirk that didn't go to space, Vikings. Number 11, Joe Burrow of the Bengals, having a pretty fantastic year. Number 10, Aaron Rodgers of the Packers. This is probably a good time also to remind people we have 4 teams on a bye and a myriad of injuries, so it's going to get thin real early when you're looking at rankings. Number 9, Jalen Hurts for the Eagles. May not be a great real-life quarterback, but has done quite well in fantasy. Number 8, Dak Prescott for the Cowboys. 7, Tom Brady, a little bit banged up, but he's got the Eagles. Number 6 for me, Matthew Stafford, Rams. Number 5, Kyler Murray of the Cardinals. Number 4, Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs. Number 3, Justin Herbert for the Chargers. And number 2, Lamar Jackson for the Ravens. Those 2 teams play this week. That should be a hell of a game. And then number 1, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, Monday night against Tennessee.
Yeah, so our rankings are almost like spot on here. So at 12, I have Kirk Cousins, gets to go against Carolina. Matt Stafford at 11 for me going against the Giants. At 10, I have Herbert. I doubted him a little bit last week. I don't want to doubt him here, but Baltimore, definitely a tough matchup. 9 for me, Tom Brady. He would be higher, but he is still dealing with a little bit of a thumb issue here, and Philly's defense not great. 8, I have Dak Prescott going up against New England. 7, Joe Burrow going up against Detroit. 6, Kyler Murray. I think because of his escapability and what he can do after the snap, he's going to be able to get after Cleveland's defense a little bit, much like Herbert did last week. 5, I've got Aaron Rodgers going up against Chicago. 4, I have Jalen Hurts up here again. I agree with Matt. He is not – I don't want to say he's a bad NFL quarterback, but there's still questions about him as an NFL quarterback. But my God, as a fantasy asset, he's been amazing. So he's continuing to be up here. And I think with all of the players beat up on Tampa Bay's defense as well, could lead to him getting more rushing work this week. So I'm kind of all in on Hurts again this week. 3, Lamar Jackson going against the Chargers. And then 2, Patrick Mahomes against Washington. And then 1 for me is also Josh Allen going up against the Tennessee Titans.
We know Miles Sanders won't get more rushing work, so...
Exactly. That's why you got to be all in on Jalen Hurts. So for running backs, at 12, I have the newly minted starter, Damian Williams. I still think Khalil Herbert's going to get work, but we did see Damian Williams get right around the same amount of rushing work, but did get more targets than Khalil Herbert. I think that matters. At 11, Darrell Henderson Jr. I'm back in on him. Giants not good against the run. I think he could have a good game here. At 10, Nick Chubb. He is just amazing. I think he continues to have a good season here. At 9, Ezekiel Elliott. He's been having a really good year, but obviously New England worries me a little bit going up against them. Now, granted, they haven't been the best defense, or at least not quite the defense we thought they were going to be, but I've got him a little bit lower. At 8, DeAndre Swift going up against, who they got against? Cincinnati. Aaron Jones at 7 going up against Chicago. At 6, James Robinson. I know, sounds crazy, but Miami has been putrid against the run. James Robinson has been really good the past couple of weeks. Number 5, I have Derrick Henry. Buffalo's defense, I think, has been the best in the NFL this year. I know Derrick Henry's going to get the volume, but I do think that they're going to be able to slow him down just a little bit. At 4, Jonathan Taylor at Houston. I will be honest, this is the one ranking I am scared of the most because this seems like just the perfect spot for Taylor to go off again, and Frank Reich gives 20 touches to Nyheim Hines, and Jonathan Taylor only gets 12. I know, I really hope it doesn't happen, but this just feels like the perfect game script, doesn't it? Like this is the perfect Nyheim Hines game for some reason, because that's just Frank Reich for you. At 3, I have Austin Eckler going up against Baltimore. 2, Najee Harris going up against Seattle, and then 1, It looks like Christian McCaffrey is coming back, so he has made his way back to the number one spot where he deserves to be in my running back rankings.
Yeah, so I'm guessing a few of these guys are actually finally going to be available. They're tracking to be available. It's tough when we're making our guesses on Wednesday afternoon. But 12, I have Nick Chubb for the Browns. 11, DeAndre Swift for the Lions. 10, James Robinson for the Jaguars. His only impediment is Urban Meyer and Darrell Bevel. Number 9, I went with Mixon for the Bengals. Samaje Perine went on COVID protocol. Mixon he was close to being back, or he did play a little bit last week, so I think he probably back to a full workload. That was 9. Number 8, Ezekiel Elliott for the Cowboys. 7, I dropped him a little bit, but Dalvin Cook looks like he's tracking to play. He's usually involved in all 3 phases. Makes me a little nervous, but I'm throwing him in there again. Number 6, Jonathan Taylor. Please God, Frank Reich, don't bonus.
I know.
Number 5, Aaron Jones. 4, Najee Harris of the Steelers. Losing Juju is going to do nothing but cause them to have to run the ball more. And Seattle's not great. Yeah. Number 3, Austin Eckler. Number 2, Christian McCaffrey. Looks like he's tracking to play. I still have Derrick Henry at number 1. Buffalo's defense is good. They might give him 95 carries. I've seen the rest of their team play. And rookie, I'm going with Harris. Najee Harris.
Alex. So Alex asked a question: which rookie do you like better out of Najee Harris and Kyle Pitts? And if you are still watching, Alex, if you wouldn't mind answering a question for me, is this for long term or right now? Because long term, I actually think I like Pitts better. I think he's got a longer future in the NFL. But if you're talking about right now to win it all, I am with Matt. It is Najee. I know a lot of people are not. They seem to not be giving him the credit he deserves. He's been amazing to start the season, especially behind a really bad Steelers offensive line. He's getting a lot of catches as well. I think Najee's going to be this, if not a better version of what we're seeing right now. So he said dynasty. I'll put it to you this way.
I'm still going Harris.
I look to like 3 to 4 year windows. If you're a winning team right now, 3 to 4 years, it's not, I have a winning team and it's not time, then it's Harris for me as well. Yeah. If you have a winning team right now, it's Harris. Cause I know Pitts had the big game last week. I don't know that continues. I hope it does because I've got a bet on the line for it. But Harris, I think, is going to consistently give you, at worst, is it fair to say 12 to 15 points a week just because of how much he gets in the receptions? And I think even more than that. And Pittsburgh did look a little bit better last week. As Matt mentioned, no more Juju, so that might force things even more to Najee. He's the guy that I want for the next couple years. Now, again, if you're talking 5-6 years down the road, I want Pitts because I think he's going to have the longer future. But Najee for like the next 3 to 4 years for me, easily.
I also think Atlanta's offense and quarterback situation is more of a question now. I know Pittsburgh's going to change quarterback, but arguably they don't really have a great quarterback situation right now, and it hasn't impacted Harris. He's probably only going to get better and grow in that offense, especially if they get a rookie quarterback, a running back, rookie quarterback's best friend. Atlanta, I don't know if I believe in the scheme or.
Oh, they're going to get a new quarterback next year too. So, but I hear you.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I do
look,
think.
Look at what happened when Arthur Smith was there for Jonnu Smith, a guy who we think is talented, who is chronically underused. Did Kyle Pitts have a huge game because it's finally time, or is it because they had no one else?
Yeah, it may unfortunately be because they had no one else. All right, wide receivers. This one might surprise you guys, but he's been amazing. I've got Marquise Hollywood Brown at 12 right now. I mean, we saw what the Browns were able to do here against the Chargers, and they don't have anybody on their roster. I mean, Odell, I think, is better than Hollywood Brown, but he's sure as shit not playing like it right now, or really the past couple of years. So I'm all in on Brown having a big week here again. At 11, I have Deontay Johnson. Seattle's defense, again, not been good this year. The loss of Juju, I think, just gives Deontay even more targets. He's been the one, in my opinion. I think that it increases even more. 10, Stephon Diggs going up against Tennessee. As Matt likes to say, their defense is, a rumor. So I think Stephon Diggs could be good this week. At 9, I got Mike Williams. I mean, We saw Carson Wentz being able to get against them a little bit this Monday night. I think Herbert's obviously better than Wentz. Mike Williams seems to be their big play guy right now over Keenan Allen, which sucks because I love Keenan Allen. So I'm putting Mike Williams up here instead of Keenan Allen. At 8, I've got Justin Jefferson. Even though Carolina has C.J. Henderson now, most of their top corners out, Stephon Gilmore is not able to play yet. So I think Jefferson can go out there and have a good game. At 7, I've got Chris Godwin against Philadelphia. 6, Terry McLaurin. KC's defense is much better against the pass than they are the run. But Terry McLaurin is, I think, literally all Heineke has to throw to outside of, Ricky Seals-Jones, who I did have to pick up, so I'm hoping he has a good game here, but I'm not betting on it. Terry McLaurin is the guy I'm going with. At 5, I think DJ Moore bounces back here against Minnesota's defense. 4, Cooper Kupp going up against the Giants. 3, Jamar Chase against Detroit. 2, Tyreek Hill against Washington. And then number 1 is always going to be number 1 until he's on a bye, and that's Devontae Adams.
Maybe even still.
He will be, because I love him so much. He'll still be 1.
Number 12 for me, Jamar Chase, Bengals. 11, I went with Mike Evans. Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in. And 116 yards, 2 touchdowns will do that. Number 10, I went with Justin Jefferson, Vikings. 9, Keenan Allen for the Chargers. 8, Terry McLaurin for Washington. 7, Stephon Diggs for the Bills. 6, DK Metcalf for the Seahawks. I know they have Geno Smith. I watched Pittsburgh's defense last week. It did not impress me. And Geno Smith had one instruction when he came in. It was find DK Metcalf. And he managed to do that. Metcalf got 2 on Ramsey. I think he'll be just fine. Number 5, I'm with you, DJ Moore, bounce back. Number 4 for me, Mike Williams. He seems to be the big play guy for the Chargers. I think this Chargers-Ravens game is going to be a big play game. 3, Cooper Kupp. Number 2, Tyreek Hill. He's got to be salivating looking at the Washington secondary of late. And number 1, Devontae Adams for the Packers. Should I roll to tight end?
Give us your tight ends.
I'm just going to preface this by saying tight end is sadder than normal this week with all the buys and injuries and people like Dallas Goedert getting COVID. Number 12 for me is Evan Ingram for the Giants. If not now, when? No Barkley, no Galladay, possibly no Slayton. It's his time. Number 11, Jared Cook for the Chargers. Just when you think you're out, Cook reels you back in. They seem to be looking at him. Number 10, Tyler Higbee for the Rams. Number 9, Zach Ertz for the Eagles. Goddard's gone. That should be good things for Ertz. Number 8, Hunter Henry for the Patriots. He seems to be developing some chemistry with Mac Jones. They're going to have to throw playing against the Cowboys. Yep. Number 7, Noah Fant for the Broncos. The Raiders have not been great against tight ends. Number 6, Dalton Schultz for the Cowboys. He is not going away. Number 5, TJ Hawkinson for the Lions. Number 4, our boy Dawson Knox for the Bills. Number 3, Darren Waller for the Raiders. 2, Mark Andrews, who looked like a beast. And then Travis Kelce at 1.
All right, so at 12 for me, I have Ricky Seals-Jones this week. Kansas City has been getting torn up by the tight end, and I'll be honest again, I'm 100% honest with everybody here. This is me a little bit of wishing this into existence. I'm having to rely on him a lot this week after Max Williams went down, so here's hoping for the best. Dan Arnold at 11. We saw him when the trade happened. They were already getting him used into the offense. Marvin Jones and those guys are just not clicking with Trevor Lawrence. I would not be surprised if Dan Arnold has a pretty good game this week. At number, 11? 10, I have Dalton Schultz going up against New England. At 9, I have Noah Fant going up against the Raiders. At 8, I have Mike Gesicki going up against Jacksonville. At 7, I have Zach Ertz going up against Tampa Bay. At 6, I have TJ Hawkinson going up against Cincinnati. At 5, I have Hunter Henry going up against Dallas. At 4, I have Darren Waller going up against Denver. At 3, I have the Dawson Knox, the one and only Dawson Knox going up against Tennessee. At 2, I have Travis Kelce. Washington's defense, while not great, I think might be able to slow him down a little bit. That secondary, I don't think is going to be able to slow it down Tyreek Hill. And at 1, I am putting Mark Andrews against the Chargers. I'm expecting that to be much like the Browns game we saw this past weekend in a shootout. So I think a lot of these guys are going to get a lot of points. So that is my top 12 for week 6 of the NFL.
Well, last week DraftKings had an incredible deal. You could bet $1 on any game, and if either team scored, you got $100 in free bets. Well, you know what? They're rolling it back. They're doing it again this week. So head over to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN and throw down a $1 bet on any NFL game to win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. So just make sure you're betting that Ravens Chargers game and you're good to go. That's promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You must be 21 or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, hit up 1-800-GAMBLER.
So to answer Hoops himself question, don't mind interrupting, but thoughts on Thielen's down performance the past couple of weeks? I'm like
tougher
70,
defensive matchups.
Yeah, I'm 70-30 that it doesn't really matter. Cleveland's got a good defense. Last week was just a weird game, I think, for Minnesota. Justin Jefferson did have a good game, but I mean, Thielen did, if I'm remembering correctly, he just missed scoring a touchdown in that one, didn't he? So he would have had a better day. And we've seen this the past couple of years out of Thielen, too, where he goes a couple weeks of having bad games and then just turns it right back on and has those massive seasons. Again, last year, I think he finished, he finished as a top 12 wide receiver last year, didn't he?
Yeah, because of all the touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that's really going to be, I think, make or break for me. I threw him in. I have him as a low-end wide receiver, too. I was trying to look at their matchup this week because it wasn't particularly – they're at Carolina.
Yeah.
You would figure Henderson probably shadows Jefferson.
Yeah.
But we saw KJ Osborne really explode the first couple of weeks. Tyler Conklin, everybody kind of dialed back, that passing offense dialed back. I think if they get Dalvin Cook, they'll have a little bit better balance, and that'll open things up a little more for Thielen.
Yeah, so for me on Thielen, it goes back to something Matt said a minute ago, and it's the touchdowns. He's not going to be that guy we saw 3 years ago where he was getting a lot of catches and yards. I think he's moving more towards being, unfortunately, kind of more touchdown-based with his scoring. Now, they don't really have the tight end to do that. I mean, Conklin is what Conklin is. I'm not worried about him, but not having Irv Smith, Rudolph moving on, I think we're going to see more from Thielen. I wouldn't be worried about him. But you are going to get some of these weeks where he only gets you like 5 or 6 points because I just don't think he's not the target monster. And I do agree with Matt, though. Once Cook comes back, that might open things up a little bit because right now I think teams can kind of fall back, throw more guys in the secondary, put more DBs out on the field, and just kind of like beat us running the ball because Alexander Madison's not good and neither is your offensive line.
Well, and, Thielen was the guy they went to when they had to have a play to put them into field goal position. Last week, a little bit of a fluke. He only saw 3 targets. He had no fewer than 7 targets in each of the previous 4 games. Even the week before against Cleveland, when he didn't have a huge game, that was kind of a rickety offensive performance. He saw 8 targets. He just was only able to haul in 3 for 46 and didn't get that touchdown. So I think long term, he's going to be okay, but he is a little more touchdown dependent for me than some of the other guys.
I agree. All right, so let's jump in and preview the Thursday night football game between the Bucs and the Eagles. For the Buccaneers, Rob Gronkowski, Levante David, Antoine Winfield, and are all out.
Those guys are out.
Yeah, Ryan Jensen is questionable. Tom Brady is a little beat up with the thumb injury. Do you think the Buccaneers will try and lean on their run game?
Yeah, I think we've seen this too, especially on a short week. They've got something good going with Leonard Fournette. He's been a big part of the game plan the last couple of weeks. I think that continues. That being said, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans probably still in good shape. Chris Godwin was on the injury report early in the week, but he was a full participant. Brady was a full participant. I think you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine too. He wouldn't come out and say he's playing if he wasn't. Leonard Fournette, I think, is the guy that they're going to lean on. He's actually been surprisingly good the past couple weeks, been putting up some pretty decent fantasy points as well. But I think overall Brady will be fine in this game. You're still going to get production. I'm believing more in Godwin and probably Antonio Brown. But I think it's kind of back to where we were last year, where you're not really going to know who the guy's going to be. But I do think this is going to be a pretty good offensive game. So maybe all three of these guys come through for you in some sort of way. But I'm not really worried about Brady, and I do think that they'll lean on Leonard Fournette a little bit more than usual. For the Eagles, Dallas Goedert is out because of COVID, and Lane Johnson is out as well. Matt, do you think the Eagles can beat the Buccaneers on Thursday night? And if you do, what is it going to take from this offense to do it?
Spoiler alert, I'm not going to pick the Eagles, but I think they can win. What it would take is some really great heads-up plays from Jalen Hurts to help them with scoring, and they probably are going to have to be very opportunistic on defense. We've seen New England was able to stymie what Tom Brady wanted to do and what the offense wanted to do, kind of forcing them to grind it out and run more, which helped keep them in the game with a young quarterback and maybe not the most robust offense. So that's a good model of what they can do. That ultimately didn't quite pan out, but we saw Mac Jones very efficient with the ball, not making any mistakes. And I think that's what we've got to see from Hurts if they're going to have a chance. He's been dynamic about making plays with his legs when he has to, but the completion percentage hasn't been great, and he's been making some pretty crucial turnovers. You have to be turnover free if you want to beat a better team like Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Miles Sanders worries me a little bit here. Again, I mentioned earlier and why I have Jalen Hurts so high is the Buccaneers have some injuries on their defensive line, and their linebackers. So I think Hurts is going to be able to make some plays here, but I'm really not leaning much on Miles Sanders. So I'm a little bit worried about him. I don't know that you can bench him because probably where you drafted him, you may not have any better options. I am with you on Zach Ertz probably having a good week here. With Goddard being out, Ertz is going to be the guy that he likely has to target a lot. For me, it's really Ertz, and Smith. I think Devonta Smith can have a good game here. The Tampa Bay's secondary has been beat up a little bit. I don't know that Richard Sherman is playing. Do you know?
I think he is. He wasn't.
Okay.
The only players that I listed are the only ones out. They had a ton of people on the injury report who've worked their way off.
Gotcha.
That's why I had to go make some adjustments. I would be concerned, though. Isn't Lane Johnson the left tackle?
Yes, he is.
That worries me a little bit. Anytime you're going without your best tight end and your left tackle blocking, even Shaq Barrett's still there.
Yeah, I do think that just speaks more to, I think, Hurts probably having a good game because he might run more in this one. And I mean, again, it may not be great for the Eagles as an NFL team, but it's great for us as fantasy guys who roster him in fantasy because, I will be honest, because I paid attention to this game because I do roster Hurts in a couple places in a couple big leagues that I was starting him. If he doesn't get those 2 rushing touchdowns last week, he does not have a great day for you fantasy-wise. Those rushing touchdowns really helped you. I do think he can do a little bit of that this week. I am not picking them to win this game either. I'm taking Tampa Bay, but I do think it's going to be a close game. I do not think Tampa Bay blows them out. I do think that it's going to be like a 31-28 game, but I do expect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to pull off the win.
Yeah, and I'm just double checking. All the people that were injured before are still injured. Jason Pierre-Paul is going to play, and it looks like Patrick O'Connor, who was the other defensive end on the injury list, are going to play. So they are going to miss David and Winfield and all those corners that were gone, but Sherman's not on here, so he should be good to go. I am picking Tampa Bay too. I'd be a little surprised if they didn't.
Yeah. And I imagine Dennis is as well. He did not put his pick in, but we're pretty sure he's going with
Dennis is the Jalen Hurts truther. He picks the Eagles every week.
That's true. That is true. I forgot about that.
We credit it.
All right. So for those of you who have not finished What If or seen the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die, we will see you guys on Friday, where Matt, myself, and I believe Dennis will be back. We will recap the Thursday night football game and preview the rest of the Week 6 NFL slate, because we are going to give spoilers away, and I do not want to ruin any. I'm going to be honest, I don't care if I ruin What If for you, because it was just okay. I do not want to ruin No Time to Die for you, because I thought it was an amazing movie. And we're going to give spoilers away because there's just no way to talk about what I want to talk about without giving some things away. So please do not continue watching if you have not seen, or listening if you have not seen the entire What If series and No Time to Die. If you have and you would like to get our thoughts on it, we're going to jump into that now. So let's start with What If. Oh, I mean, well, we'll see. Maybe I was a little bit harsh. We'll see what Matt has to say. Matt is the film critic here, but we'll start with What If, because I don't have as much to talk about with that as I do No Time to Die. So I'll let you kick it off here. You finished it. Kind of what were your overall thoughts about it, and kind of what what you think about what could come next?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty amazing year for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, both on the big screen and the small screen. We've seen them diving into TV really the first time. And I've enjoyed the series. What If, I would lean toward you. I thought it was okay. It had its moments. It was a lot darker than I was anticipating. Some of it was a little stranger than I was, the idea and the fascination of what could possibly be was interesting, but I wasn't always taken with each of the individual chapters. And then the way, I guess I didn't realize until the penultimate episode and really the finale that all these were supposed to be sort of connected in a certain way. So seeing them all kind of come together there at the end, it was a somewhat fascinating finale. I don't know where it goes from here. We already know it's coming back for a second season. And also, they made allusions that it's going to be connected to the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. Curious to see in what way that comes through.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me. Like, we've kind of, especially with the TV series and obviously the movies, going all the way back to Iron Man, right? Like, we've given some kind of glimpse of what is coming next. I don't really know what to take out of what's coming next with what happened with What If. I did enjoy the stories. I will say the one thing is, I'm with you. I did not expect it to be as dark as it was, but I kind of liked it. It's one of the things that I've really liked about DC at times is, while their movies haven't always been great, I like the darker undertones. It doesn't always have to be campy. Now, I do like, like one of my favorite Marvel movies is Civil War, which is just it has very serious undertones through it. It's a very good movie. Suspense. I liked a lot of it. What's the other one? Winter Soldier is another one. Is another one of my favorites. And I like that stuff about it. We did get a lot of, there's a lot of darkness in What If, which I did kind of like, and then bring it, but I didn't necessarily like that. I mean, it felt like none of the stories were really connected at all. Outside of the Watcher, I didn't really love the ending of them just fighting like a souped up Thanos / Ultron, with him having all the Infinity Stones, and then Killmonger kind of turning on the group as they thought they had killed Ultron. It was just a whole, or no, I guess they did kill Ultron. So
it was strange too, because when he collects all those people and puts them together into a team, if you had been watching the individual episodes throughout, you wouldn't have necessarily thought of a few of those guys as heroes per se. Yeah. We thought the What If series was going to be a redemption of sorts for Killmonger, but it was not, And, we had Dark Strange, not super heroic, sort of childish Thor. Were we supposed to take away that he was heroic? So I'll be curious to see, but it didn't hit with some of the power for me of the 3 scripted series or what I'm anticipating from Hawkeye. It didn't hit with the power of the movies they released this year. If it was the only thing that came out this year, we'd probably be higher on it, but they set the bar so high starting in January with WandaVision that, by comparison, I think it ends up just being okay.
I will ask one question. Maybe I missed this episode. I don't think it shows that I watched all of them, but I don't ever remember seeing Gamora and Tony being together. So where did I miss that at?
Yeah, I don't remember seeing because where she defeated Thanos. I don't remember that
Yeah.
one either.
That's what I was trying to figure out because I was watching it and obviously it drops in, she's got the Thanos armor on with his sword.
Yeah,
Tony's
because
all suited up in a
Tony
big
Stark
suit
died
armor.
in pretty much every episode we
Right.
saw. Like died
And
in a
so
sad way.
he goes in there and he gets him. I'm like, wait, when did I miss I don't remember ever there being one about Gamora. So I don't know, Hoops, if you're still here, because I would assume you watch it based on your comment. Like, I don't remember seeing that. That is one I would have liked to see. I like.
It looks like
Gamora.
he said it wasn't an episode. Yeah, I would have been curious about that too, because it looked like she and Tony Stark were at the place where Thor went in Endgame, and forged his axe.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the star now, but so that was confusing to me as well. Yeah, nowhere. It was confusing to me as well. There, I didn't. What happened? Like Loki, it was supposed to be a long thing, but they split it up. Oh, okay. See, but I would have preferred then if they were going to make that, like, maybe we get this showdown at the end of season 2 then. Like, I would have liked to see the Gamora episode, because I actually do like Gamora. I'd like to see one where Tony Stark doesn't die, as Matt just mentioned. So it's just... Maybe the second season makes it a little bit better. Again, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed watching every episode. Maybe Matt worded it better in that with how good I think all the series have been so far, I think What If falls below all of those for me. So, and that's why I say it was okay. It wasn't great. I enjoyed WandaVision.
I enjoyed,
Hulk, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
We're not dunking on it.
Yeah. All right, so you have anything else to say about What If before we get into what I really want to talk about, and that is No Time to Die?
No, I'll be curious to see if it comes back. It almost seemed like they were alluding to it popping up in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, which will be interesting. I've heard a lot of theories about that. I've only seen the one trailer.
Which
I'm curious to see.
I don't even think they have a trailer for Doctor Strange yet. That was a trailer.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man.
But that would, it feels like a lot of their television shows are pointing to their, WandaVision very clearly seemed to be pointing in that direction. Loki seemed to be very clearly pointing in that direction. I would assume that this show might be pointing in that direction as well. So that will make it a little bit more interesting to see how it kind of comes out, because Jeffrey Wright is a bigger actor and we haven't seen him embody. You wouldn't be shocked if he actually popped up in person as he popped up in person in the next thing we're about to talk about.
Oh, man, it's so tough, too. All right, so No Time to Die. We talked a little bit, I'm pretty sure, maybe it was on air last week, about we are both big Bond fans. So I'll be honest, I liked the movies beforehand. I did not get as into James Bond as I have been until Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was the perfect Bond. I know a lot of people, I've read a lot of stuff the past couple of days, and so I'm going to group it all together here. And there's a lot of people who are fans of Ian Fleming's Bond. Obviously, if you have not read the books, I would suggest them. I love them. I have every single one of them, including the last one that came out, which I can't remember his first name, but his last name's Gardner. Wrote another one, Carte Blanche, I believe is the name of the book. It is very good as well. They did not like Daniel Craig's Bond as much because he is more human. A lot of times we see him as more of this like eccentric kind of, playboy who just kind of does the mission. Never really see him bleed or get down. And we've seen Daniel Craig's James Bond struggle with a lot, including love. And this is kind of what this last one wraps around with his love for Madeline. Haven't seen any James Bond movies because there are too many for different actors. I don't know where to start. Start with Casino Royale and watch them. And if you're going to do that, Hoops, leave, please, because we're going to ruin this for you, and I don't want to ruin it for you. But I promise you will truly enjoy these 5 movies if you sit down and watch Casino Royale, because it's not connected to anything. That is the one thing I will say. In my opinion, Craig's Bonds are not connected to any of the past Bonds or anything like that. I would definitely suggest watching them. It is a very good 5 string of movies here. So for me, the one thing I'll say is I felt like No Time to Die was a complete departure from most Bond movies. It was not something that you usually see. I feel like they took a lot of risks that I think paid off. Koji, I don't know how to say his full name here, but he's directed some. I think it's Fukunawa, if I'm
Yeah,
remembering correctly.
Joji Fukunaga.
Joji, I'm sorry. So he's directed like some horror movies and everything, and I feel like you very much saw that.
He directed the first season of True Detective.
Oh, well, even better. See ya, Hoops. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, and then No Time to Die in theaters if you have time to go see it. Yeah, I thought you saw some elements of the horror movies and the stuff, the suspense in this one. The beginning scene in Norway, I thought was incredible. I did not expect the title sequence to go that long. For those of you who don't know, they usually do like a little intro thing before they get into the music of the whatever that theme song is going to be for Bond, and they do like a whole. This one went a lot longer than usual. We got the entire Norway scene and then the entire scene in Italy, where obviously we see that. So I'm going to start there. Kind of what were your thoughts with that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, this one picks up, as a sequel, as we've seen with Daniel Craig's James Bond. They tie the movies back together. You often pick up where it left off. I feel like, especially with, I remember the Pierce Brosnan ones pretty well. I don't know how many of the other ones I had seen before that. They were kind of self-contained movies more.
Yes.
This has felt really like it wants to be a 5-movie series. So you get that in a pretty strong way. I thought that opening action sequence was really good, and then you launch into the song, and you're always. One of the things I love about the Bond opening credits is the way that they do these kind of. They're one of the few movies nowadays that has these kind of long animated credit sequences. They always have something to do with what the plot's going to be, but you don't always know until you're starting it. I thought that was kind of clever too.
Yeah, I loved the biggest thing for me, the bullets to make the DNA strands, which you don't at the time. At least I didn't understand what that meant and what was going on. Now,
yeah,
I know after going back. Like I'm with you on that. So, I guess my biggest thing that I did not like about this, and I went back and watched it a second time. There's a lot of things that I picked up, like a lot of subtle things, like in the commentary that I really liked. Just in that opening scene. Where you think that Madeline may have actually turned on Bond, or he thinks that with what's going on, what happens at Vesper's grave, which I do like that they go back there and kind of bring that all back together again. It's like his one first true love, right? Like the one woman he first let his guard down to and kind of realized, hey, maybe I can't be in love and do all this. And you really don't see him fall for anybody again until Spectre with Madeline. She touches her stomach a lot, which obviously is a key to what happens later in the film. We'll save that for later. In the beginning part, which I think is kind of like, I did not pick up on that the first time. I wasn't paying attention to that. I thought it had to do when she kept saying, when there's the whole cars chasing and the whole thing where Bond is just like broken because he thinks Madeline has kind of, has been leading him on this whole time and kind of turned on him. She's clearly trying to tell him her secret. I thought it was about Safin. I did not think it was about, I'm just going to say it, the pregnancy. So that was kind of big for me. Go ahead.
No, I don't know if pregnancy would have been what she was going to tell him. I think it was going to be about her childhood.
Well, okay, so maybe I read too. She like when she's on the train at the end where she's like, she holds her stomach the whole time. And so I don't know. I took that as, then again, maybe it's because I know what happens now, so maybe I'm reading too much into it. I feel like that's what she was trying to tell him, though, was that she was pregnant. I don't know. Like, I do think she was going to tell him about the Safin thing, but I think that was more about the pregnancy. But, I mean, I loved everything about the movie. If I had to pick a favorite sequence overall, it was the Cuba stuff. One, because Paloma, I mean, my God. Stunning. And incredible. Anna de Armas.
So, have you ever seen Knives Out?
I have. I love Knives Out. Yes.
Yeah, I love her in that too.
She's also, I think, really good in Blade Runner, the newest one with Ryan Gosling. She plays the like not imaginary, but the the like electronic girlfriend. However, she's like a hologram or something like that. So, but I think I loved her in Knives Out. I thought she killed it though as Paloma. Like, she was the one part of this movie that really brought some comedy into what was a very serious story. And I understand she's also a throwback to, I think, the traditional Bond girls, which we have not seen a lot of in these.
With Daniel Craig.
Yeah, with Daniel Craig's, we've seen more of these women who are like his equals. In previous Bond films, we see these women who are kind of dressed up and look very good, beautiful. She is a very beautiful woman. And they kind of like have to prove themselves throughout the film to prove they're equals. You get that right off the bat with these Craig movies, which I do like. You don't know what to expect from Paloma, though. She comes in, talks about how nervous she is. She's very funny. Just the whole exchange with Cuba is hilarious for me. And then obviously the way things end in Cuba was heartbreaking. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to give away a big spoiler. So again, please do not keep watching The Death of Felix Sharp, which I love Sharp. I thought, Jeffrey Wright, who obviously was the Watcher in What If, that we were just talking about, I thought was great as Felix Sharp. We got him in 3 movies. He's been in previous incarnations. We have not got to see him in this many movies as the same actor. Jeffrey Wright has played Leiter more than any other person has played him in more movies.
It was hard. You called him Felix Sharp.
Oh, sorry. Oh, my buddy, Felix Sharp. Shout out. Felix Leiter. He unfortunately gets shot in the stomach on this boat where Nash, who is the new in this movie, kind of turns on them. And not only do we see him kind of die, I thought the exchange at the end was very good with like, this is the best life. And the one thing I hated, and it did make me tear up a little bit, I won't lie, is when he kind of just like goes down into the water. It was very Vesper-esque, his death, where he kind of floats away the way his body was in the water. That kind of hit me because I do think, and as you hear Bond say later, that was, in his opinion, his only real brother. And that's what he says to Blofeld in the prison. When Blofeld mentions they're technically brothers, adopted, he mentions, he's like, I only had a brother, Felix. So to see that, like, that kind of hit a little bit in the heart. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough sequence, obviously. He brings it up too when he's talking to M.
Yeah, Mallory. Yeah.
And that seemed to be a way that that seemed to be something that hit M pretty hard. One of the reasons it felt like he changes course and puts Bond back into because we picked up this movie. It's supposed to be 5 years later. He's retired. I thought they actually have a new 007. Lashana Lynch who played that part. I thought she was really good. It was kind of it was a different look for him. It's interesting to me too. There was a lot of questions a few years ago about whether we'd even see Daniel Craig again because he had some unflattering things to say about being the part right before Spectre came out. And then he seemed super pumped about this movie and everything. The situation, given how it ends, sort of reminded me of Harrison Ford with Han Solo, where he was out on the whole thing, like, I'm never going to do this again. Then all of a sudden seems super pumped to be in The Force Awakens. And when you start watching the movie, you kind of figure out why he was super pumped to be back.
Yeah, so that's, I think, one of my biggest, I don't even want to say criticisms, because I love the film overall. I don't, Spectre, a lot of people thought Spectre was going to be Craig's last film. And so I do think that's why they allowed Blofeld to just be arrested, because it was one of those things where, like, we didn't expect him to come back for one more film. Because the one thing I will say, and Christoph Waltz, number one, is an amazing actor. I would have loved to continue to see Blofeld as more of the main villain than Stephon. Not that Rami Malek was bad. I actually thought he was very good as Stephon. I liked the villain of Stephon. I wish we could have gotten more of that. I felt like he was a little underdeveloped as the villain. I don't really fully understand all of his motivations in this film. Yeah. I understand the beginning part, not the end. But I do think that the reason that happened was because we did not know they were going to come back. And so at the end again of Spectre, Blofeld's arrested. I don't know that you can just say, oh, hey, he broke free and he's now the bad guy again. So, because I didn't love the way that they killed him off either. He, in the books, And even in the earlier James Bond movies, he's like the biggest villain for Bond. So to kind of see him just killed off technically almost as like an accident, because it wasn't really like, I understand the movie it was done on, but like Bond didn't do it on purpose. He didn't know. So I didn't necessarily love that part. I would have loved to see Blofeld more as like a main villain throughout the entire film, not just kind of like working things in the background and then just kind of dying kind of trappedly, in my opinion.
For as long as it was, 163-minute runtime is pretty long for a film these days. You're broaching on 3 hours to 2 hours and 43 minutes. It feels like there was a big piece that must have been originally in there that was missed, because the motivation for why Safin takes Madeline and his seemingly making it seem like they have some kind of romantic connection, that's the one piece I would say felt like it came out of nowhere in the third act, where you're like, come again?
Yeah. I think some of that goes to, obviously, I think he saw a lot of himself in Madeline, which is why he rescued her at the beginning of the movie. He was a child who was killed, or he survived his whole family being slaughtered by her father, Mr. White, who we saw die in Spectre, was like a main guy through most. I know he was in both Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale. I don't believe he was in Skyfall at all. But then he was obviously in Spectre as well, the fourth one. So he wasn't really 3. I don't think there was a lot of anything Spectre-wise outside of you find out Blofeld was kind of pulling the strings with, and I don't remember his name. It is escaping me right now, but the character that Javier Bardem plays phenomenally, I might add, in the movie.
Yeah.
He helps him out with certain things in that movie, but there's not really a lot of Spectre strings in that one, because that's more about M, and I think Judi Dench's kind of a send-off. Yeah, Silva, there we go. Yeah. That's kind of more about like Bond and Judi Dench's M and kind of like her final send-off, so there wasn't a lot of Spectre in that, but yeah, I'm with you. Like, so I think that's why he saved her, because it's like, you know what? It's not her fault, just like it wasn't my fault that what happened. But then the romantic thing at the end, I don't get. Now, he did say something to her when he goes and sees her, very creepily playing with her hair, which I thought was a little bit weird. Maybe it was a little bit of, he mentions that he saved her life and that, gives him power. So maybe that's some of it. I don't know if maybe he took, I don't think that he really wanted Madeline. Maybe he did. I think he wanted Matilda and to have like a child of his own to raise and teach. And in doing that, you probably have to have Madeline there as well. But yeah, I'm with you. That was just like a weird thing. Again, I wish we could have gotten more into Safin, because I know a lot of people have talked bad kind of like Rami Malek's past couple films. I thought he played Safin a very good job. It was very creepy. I thought overall did a very good job as the villain. Didn't get a lot of screen time though. Like, he really wasn't a major villain until really the third act, and even then you don't get a lot of them even on the island. It's only a little bit.
And that's almost, you talk about the opening sequence before the song. There was almost 2 opening sequences, really. Yeah. I mean, there was 2. That's why it felt even longer.
Yeah. But overall, like I said, I liked it. I do like that they took the risk of giving him a child. I don't think not that I can remember off the top of my head. Do I remember Bond ever having a child? So I did like that. I do like, obviously giving him kind of like that redeeming arc at the end with Madeline, where they finally get together and you look like they're going to be happy. And then obviously you get to the ending where, again, so for those of you who've seen it, obviously Safin has created the Heracles thing with Madeline and I believe Matilda's blood in it to kind of, if they go near anybody once that vial breaks, they will die. And he breaks it on Bond. So Bond knows now he can never go up there, and he pretty much sacrifices himself for his kid and the woman that he loves. I saw a lot of people hating on that. And the one thing I'll say is, if you have kids, I don't know any parent that would not have done the same thing. I do think that it was a great way for Daniel Craig's Bond to get that final send-off, because again, he's always been this guy. He's been more of a humanized Bond with flaws, and I do think he's always kind of been that guy ever since Vesper kind of broke him in Casino Royale, as this guy that's like, I'm just going to kind of kill, and use kind of like the bond that we get in the Fleming books, and not really let it affect him. And we got to see that kind of change around, and he finally has a reason to kind of live. And unfortunately, I think that's what makes it so tragic. Like, his character to me has always been, his bond has been very tragic with everything he's gone through. And I think that really solidifies it, because he finally gets the chance to be happy, and then that happens because he's doing what he also has loved for the most part of his entire life, which is his job. Right? Like, that's what he says to Felix. It's the best. This job is the best, and he says it really is. He's always sacrificed for queen and country, and he does it one more time by going back on the island to make sure that the blast doors are opened. It causes him to have that done, and he could have been selfish. He could have just left and said, "No, I'm going to leave, and we'll figure this out." But he doesn't. He says, "I don't want to take the risk of anybody getting the Hercules on them that contains Madeline and Matilda's blood that could eventually kill them," and he sacrifices himself. And I will admit, the final scene where he's standing there, they're talking on the earpiece. I swear I'm going to do my best to not get like all choked up.
Yeah.
And when she's like, she has your eyes, and she's like, she does, or I know, and then he dies. Like, to me, it was a very powerful moment. I loved it. I thought it was the perfect send off for his bond.
Yeah, the third act in general, I thought worked really well. It was a longer movie, but it didn't, like we talked about on Monday, it didn't feel that long. And I thought the ending was good. For me, I haven't had time this week to go back and watch, but it makes me want to watch. Prior to this one, I would have said without a doubt Casino Royale was my favorite of his films.
Yeah.
Skyfall, not too far behind, but Casino Royale has always been the one. This was the first one where I feel like I need to watch Casino Royale and think about it.
Yeah, for me, it's Casino Royale, Skyfall. I think right now, so I've seen it twice. Now, I've seen all of these. I mean, I'm not even joking when I say dozens of times, including Quantum of Solace, which, again, I've appreciated the more and more I've watched it. It's not my favorite, but I do like it. I know a lot of people don't like Spectre, which I don't get. There's some issues with the story there, but I thought the action in it was good. I liked the story overall, so I don't really have any issues with it. But that's third. For me, I think No Time to Die is right there with Skyfall for me. And I think a lot of it is just I love the way they tie so many things, again, all the way back to Casino Royale. They make it one linear storyline where I agree with you. And the Pierce Brosnan ones, it's all separate adventures. And I honestly think, too, you could go back and watch Daniel Craig's. You don't have to have watched Skyfall to enjoy Quantum of Solace or Skyfall or Spectre. Like, even though they're all tied into each other, they're all still very good movies as well in one. It's right up there. I don't know that it could dethrone Casino Royale, because I love Casino Royale. I mean, I still, when the train scene, when Vesper first gets there and, he talks about like how great his ass looks in a suit. And then she mentions his lamb and he's like skewered and just like, there's so many great lines in that movie. I love it so much. This is going to be really bad to say, but like the whole torture scene with Lashif and everybody's going to know you died scratching my balls. Like, that's an iconic line for me. Like, I'm just like, dude, like for someone to actually say that is it's epic. But No Time to Die, I think the more and more I watch it, is probably going to be up there, because again, I think it's just such a good story. And I'm with you. Like, I didn't even realize it was almost 3 hours long, and the movie ends, and I wanted more. Like, I was like, this could have gone for another hour, and I'd have been all in. Like, there's never once, like, I hate to say this because I love Avengers so much, but there were times in Infinity War and Endgame where, like, I was kind of like, okay, like, where are we going with this? Like, we probably don't need, like, I never felt that way in this last one with No Time to Die. Like, I was glued from the second it started in Norway till the minute it ended with I don't remember what her name is, but with them toasting to Bond and kind of finally kind of moving on.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it. You have anything else you want to add? I don't want to like cut you off there.
No.
Before we go. Okay.
No, it was definitely one that delivered. We had to wait a really long time, delayed 18 months, but
yeah, it was well worth it. Yeah. All right. So that will do it for us today. I will. I don't know why I said I will. We will be back on Friday. Matt, myself, and
I hope
Dennis.
you'll be back. Otherwise, we're going to have a hard time.
Yeah. We will all be here on Friday to again recap the Thursday night football game between the Buccaneers and the Eagles, and we will preview the entire Week 6 NFL slate. Enjoy the game Thursday, guys. We'll talk to you guys again on Friday.